Hey everyone, Western medicine has gaslit you, and there is healing beyond chronic illness. We are your whistleblowing shrinks, Dr. Teralyn and Therapist Jenn, and you are listening to the Gaslit Truth Podcast.
You sure are. And Jen and I were gaslit a lot over insurance companies. So you might see our titles on YouTube today. Today, I'm Dr. Salty with insurance companies, and she's my
Yeah.
salty ally.
Yeah, I'm the salty ally. I don't do nearly as much work as she does with the insurance companies. I think it's because your level of patience is so much greater than mine. Your knowledge is so much greater than mine. Your interpersonal communication is so much greater than mine.
Well, I don't know about all of
I
that,
think
but
that's
yeah.
all legit. All right.
All right, we're going to bring in our guest today. I'm going to click her in right now. Here she is.
Here she comes. Yes.
Meet Heather Gray. Heather is a functional diagnostic nutritionist and bioenergetic practitioner, specializing in supporting clients with chronic and complex illnesses such as Lyme disease, mold toxicity, and autoimmune diseases. With over 32 years of personal experience, she understands the struggles of living with these conditions and is dedicated to helping others find relief. Her personalized approach as a practitioner, podcast host, author, and stand-up comedian has helped countless clients reduce inflammation in the body and brain, improve gut health, and achieve optimal wellness. She helps her clients get to the root cause of their symptoms and help them take control of their health journey. It's effective and empowering. She wants you to know that you don't have to let chronic illness control your life, and you can achieve the health and vitality you deserve, which is everything that we agree with as well. So please welcome Heather Gray to the show.
Woohoo! Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, you got to start with a really good joke.
Yeah.
Well, once we get into my story, you'll see, how it is that I turned into a stand-up comedian. You'll be like, oh, there it is.
Ding,
Well,
ding.
as I was reading your bio, I'm thinking, yeah, because you have to have one hell of a sense of humor to get through any type of chronic illness or even mental health disorder sometimes.
But wait,
know?
there's more.
But
I
wait, there's
can't
more.
wait. I can't wait.
All right, so let's get to it. If you wouldn't mind sharing your story. I said, when we were off air here, I said, there's a reason why people go into functional medicine and things like that. So we want to hit that area kind of hard today. So if you can kind of share with us your story, how you got to where you are here, that'd be great. And don't forget, how did you become a comedian? Because I'm super interested in that part
Okay.
too. So
Yeah, absolutely. So I start at the beginning because so many folks think that there's just a cause and effect, right? I got bit by a tick. I got Lyme disease. I have genetics for cancer and now I have cancer. And I'm usually the one on the hill going, no, it started way, way, way before that. So let's go back in the way back machine. And it basically started with me being born full of shit. Like, how many of your patients can relate? How many of you people can relate
Oh,
to
my
being
daughter can. She was born full of
constipated
shit too. Yeah.
at a young age, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm 4 years old, sitting on the potty so long that my feet are falling asleep. And this started out let's throw Band-Aids at symptoms, nasty thick oils, stool softeners, but nobody was trying to figure out why this 4-year-old couldn't poop. Hindsight's 2020. That was the year my uncle committed suicide. That was the year my grandmother died of breast cancer, and I was being raised by alcoholic addicts. So needless to say, my ACE score, right, adverse childhood experiences, off the roof. And it just really set me up to be that perfect storm. My mom then divorced my dad for his brother and then got pregnant with twins. So I now have sister cousins. Can anybody else say that? So basically my life just kind of wrote this material all on its own. Like, how could I not?
Okay, I've tried to process the sister cousins. Okay.
Sister cousins, yes. It's actually a bit in my show talking about how trauma to comedians is like gold, right? It's like having a winning hand at poker. I see the verbal abuse of your first grade bully, and I'll raise you, my mother divorcing my dad for his brother. Boom.
Right.
Royal flush. Or is that a full house?
Oh my God.
Anywho.
Oh my God. Here we go.
So I'm now 13, and I'm pretty sure right around that time too, it kicked on my celiac gene just because of the amount of stress going on. So now I'm eating a standard American diet, SAD diet, right? I've kicked on my celiac gene, lots of childhood trauma, lots of abuse. And so when I was 13, I just became the perfect host so that when I did get bit by a tick, like I said, all of its little friends and itself, was able to have a party because, my parents were home, basically. My symptoms developed about 2 years later when my first attempt at suicide. And again, nobody was trying to figure out why this 15-year-old couldn't, handle life. They just called me attention seeking and put me on all kinds of drugs, pat me on the head and send me out the door, to only end up there 2 more times before the age of 22. Fast forward now, 34, my kid is 9, and I'm really having a hard time again. Like, I'm needing to be talked off a ledge. I've seen easily over 20 or 30 doctors at this point. They all told me it's all in my head. So here's the gaslighting, right? My mom was a nurse. Like, nobody fucking believed me ever. Nobody. And finally, I don't know, I got the strength to go one more time to this doctor an hour away from me. And within 5 minutes, she got a little glimmer in her eye. And she goes, I know exactly what's wrong with you. And I'm thinking, bullshit, crazy lady. Like,
Yeah,
okay.
right. Bring
And
it
she goes,
on, lady.
have you ever
Let's see
been
what you
bit by
got.
it? Yeah. She's like, have you ever been bit by a tick? I was like, yeah, when I was 5 or 13. I remember picking it out of my stomach. Oh, and my mom took it out the wrong way. Don't ever take a lighter to a tick. Like, that's not the way that you
That's
take
how
a
we
tick
did it
out.
back then.
Right,
That's
it
how we
is.
did it. Yeah.
But then your chances are getting it are that much higher because that stresses it out and it makes it regurgitate everything that it's in its system. So anywho,
Ooh.
I didn't get the bullseye rash either, which only 30% of people who actually have Lyme disease ever get that bullseye rash. So
Yeah.
that's another misnomer.
Right.
Yeah.
So I say, yeah. And so I'm driving home. I still need to write my damn book. It's called I Told You I'm Not Crazy, The Realities of Lyme Disease. And because that's what I screamed at the top of my lungs. I'm driving down the highway, 75 miles an hour, tears streaming down my eyes. And I just screamed, I told you I'm not crazy. Right? Because that my whole life. And so I have that in a bit as well. Like, I want to stop calling people crazy. Instead, I want to say your brain inflammation is showing, right? Because that's what's really
That's the
happening.
title of your book right there, actually.
Your brain inflammation is showing. You're not crazy. Your brain inflammation is showing.
Yeah.
Because that's the reality of it. And once you slap somebody with that crazy stigma, it's really, 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 really hard to wash off. I am anything but crazy. I am brilliant. I am funny. I have a heart the size of Texas. Like, I am not crazy. But when my brain is inflamed, like this last summer when mold was blowing in on me from an air conditioner, I flat lost my shit. Like, it was absolutely nutso. So I told my ex-husband that. I'm like, if I ever act that way again, like, that should be a flag on the play, right? There's something going on in my environment that's triggering me because Heather doesn't normally act that way.
And you probably can't see it yourself.
Nope,
Like,
not in the moment, not when my brain is that inflamed. Because it feels, and that's when I got out of it, I felt so horrible because I felt so justified in the anger and the reactions, everything towards him. And then once I got on the other side of it, and I was just like, I am so, so sorry. Like, that is not me. That I am so sorry.
So Heather, before you keep going with your story, so symptom wise, the things that you experienced throughout these episodes that would happen, obviously there was some unaliving that occurred. Okay. You're talking also about, anger, extreme irritability, being disconnected from reality. Like, what are the symptoms that you were experiencing that you apologize for here now later, right? But what did you experience even when you were younger? Are they similar?
Yeah, I mean, so even in my bit, I talk about giving the Karens of the world some grace, right?
I
Because
saw that on your
most
Instagram. I
people
did.
who
Yeah.
act that way, there's something going on, right? A healthy, happy, well-adjusted person doesn't act that way. But I also wanted to stop calling them Karen because I don't want to shit on women anymore. So I changed the name to Stan. So when
Let's
Stan
shit
is
on men
acting,
instead.
Stan.
Stan. But so reactivity, like people used to say all the time, just count to 10. And I remember being in like 15 years old and being in anger management control classes, which was a joke. And so I always thought there was something massively wrong with me because I couldn't count to 10. There was no buffer. There was something happened and I reacted. I mean, that fast. It was horrible. And then I spent the rest of the time apologizing because, again, that's not who I am. So reactivity, anger, emotional outbursts, weight gain, gut issues, constipation, chronic pain, especially joint pain. Lyme likes to eat collagen. And so it likes to hang out in the joints. What else? I mean, my left knee would swell up to like 3 times its size for no reason. They call that Lyme knee. Oh, they also call that reactivity Lyme rage. Yeah. Yeah. I was like Hulk smash. Like that was
Yeah.
me.
So
I
physical
was like,
symptoms.
oh my God, the Hulk.
Yep,
He's got
the
Lyme
whole thing.
disease.
Yeah. Oh my
That's
God.
funny.
I know. I just thought of that. I'm gonna have to remember that for.
You write that. Use
I'm
that
like,
somewhere.
no.
Use
I've
that
had a
somewhere.
couple things come this morning. I must be really open today because now I'm going through a divorce and recently single. And now, as a practitioner, knowing what I know, like humans are gross and all of us have parasites. And 50% of the population has H. pylori, and that's spread through kissing. And so, how the hell am I going to date now knowing what I know? I'm just screwed, or I'm not, unfortunately.
You can be unscrewed, literally
Listen,
and
we got
figuratively.
things to take care of that. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Before we
you're
start dating, you have to take some Matula tea and some anti-parasite cleanse for a month before I'll
Right,
touch
right,
you.
right.
oh
I've
my God.
got some parameters on the
Oh
dating
my
that I
gosh.
do.
Anybody that ever wants to sleep with you, there's gonna be a laundry list of shit they gotta do first. It's just it. That's all there
They're
is
gonna be
to
like, "This bitch better be worth it."
it.
Yeah. Exactly.
So mental, psychological symptoms that popped, as well as some legit physical
Oh,
pieces
yeah.
going on as well. So both were happening.
My teeth completely fell apart because they like to hang out in the gums too, eyes,
Oh,
it, really affected my eyesight because when you're that inflamed, especially with mold likes to inflame the optic nerve, so
yep.
one of the less expensive tests that you can do is called a VCS test. It's like a $10 eye test that you take online, and it's the same test that they do for fighter pilots to see if they can see contrast.
Mm.
So if your optic nerve is inflamed, it's usually because of some kind of mold or environmental toxins. So yeah, I mean, Lyme disease is called the great mimicker for a reason, because between its co-infections that it usually comes with and itself, it's a spiral shaped bacteria and it can invade any system, any tissue in the body and start systematically kind of shutting things down. So
Yeah.
if you've been diagnosed fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, or Crohn's, ALS, celiac. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on that it can mimic. And MS, they're starting to find out like huge portions of people with MS are actually misdiagnosed Lyme disease. Alzheimer's, same thing. Like it's
Mhm.
crazy.
I feel like Alzheimer's and MS are just kind of like a diagnostic bucket. Like we don't really know what's happening, right? Or why it happened. So we're treating symptoms. I saw this a post this morning on Facebook, and it was this woman who was on Lexapro, and she started experiencing symptoms that were mimicking Parkinson's disease. So then they diagnosed her with Parkinson's and gave her a whole bunch of medications on top of that. And she's like, "So now I have Parkinson's." I'm like, "No, now you've got something else." And this is the same situation here. Like this goes down into the root cause. Root cause medicine is so important, which is where you got into the functional diagnostic stuff, right?
Yep. So yeah, I was going the traditional route for a while and I thought I
Hmm.
was going to die. They literally were
Yeah.
throwing massive amounts of napalm at a body that had been sick for over 30 years. I
Yeah.
still wasn't pooping. Nobody was asking me if I could shit or what my stress level was like or what my diet was like. And it was still crap. All of it was crap. But they just went to war with a body that hadn't been working right for 3 decades. I
Mm.
thought I was going to die. And on a podcast, that's where I heard the founder of FDN speaking with Sean Croxton. He used to have a show called Underground Wellness. And they were talking about how you got to make sure your hormones are balanced and that your detox pathways are open and you got to heal your gut. I was a silly hairstylist at the time. I didn't have a medical background, but intuitively I was like, oh, that's it. That's
I
that's my
know.
that's my ticket out of here.
Mhm.
And it was, for the most part. I had to peel back other layers like mold, heavy metals. I had cavitations, which that's a whole nother story. And then the last piece was putting the nervous system work into place because I would clean myself up and then I would relapse and I would clean myself up and then I would relapse. And it was the one missing piece, right? Because we got to get out of fight or flight. We can't
Yeah.
heal when we're in fight or flight. Most of us with the chronic illness, especially those high A scores, that's why we have those high A scores, is because the tiger is always chasing us. So I
Yep.
had to learn how to get the tiger to stop chasing me and to calm and to, get my nervous system in a different, completely place. And then once I got that into peace, I haven't had an autoimmune flare. I haven't had a Lyme disease flare. And I think that's what breaks my heart so much these days is because so many folks are like, they take that as just part of the package. I'm flaring from my Lyme, or I'm flaring from
Yes.
autoimmune. And I'm like,
Yes.
you don't
I
have
hear that a
to
lot.
do that. Like,
Yep.
that's not how this works. Like, you can put it in remission.
Mhm.
I'm nothing special. I told you I was just basically brought up poor white trash, was a freaking hairstylist. Like, I didn't have the means, the education, the support, nothing to do what
Yeah.
I've done. And I did it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I wanna circle back around because when you first started, you mentioned, genetics a little bit, like this flipped on the genetic code. Right, so I just wanna kinda make this clear that, people do feel like if they have certain genetic codes that they're doomed.
Oh
Like,
God, no.
this is just the reality of it. I have this, I'm doomed. Do you wanna expand on that a little bit?
Yes, because
Mhm.
I love epigenetics,
Yeah.
which is which is what really you should be focusing more on, because it depends on what your lifestyle is like and what gets shut on, turned on and shut off,
Mhm.
Mhm.
So for me, I mean, I am the canary in the coal mine. Like, all my detox pathway genes suck. Horrible. I don't process and convert vitamin D. I don't store it. I don't transport right. So there's a lot of things against me. And once I cleaned up my environment, once I cleaned up my body, I take, certain supplements to kind of help support myself. And like I said, I don't have these disease processes anymore because of the way that I take care of myself. Unfortunately, this world is not set up. It's not conducive for human health at all. And we're seeing that on a mass level. And so sometimes when you leave this lifestyle, that's why I like podcasts like this. It can feel very isolating, right?
Mhm.
I feel like the, bubble girl sometimes when I go out, I'm
Mhm.
bringing my own food, I'm bringing my own
Yeah.
water.
Yep.
I
Same.
When I
Same
travel to
here.
hotel rooms, I have my freaking air filters because so many of those damn hotel rooms are moldy from running
Mhm.
the AC 24/7. But like I said, though, I'm living a life that I didn't even know was possible with a type of energy and, the brain power
Mhm.
that like I said, never in a million years at the age of almost 47 did I feel like I was going to be this vibrant. And I don't look 47.
If you wanna see that, you're gonna have to check out
Yeah,
YouTube.
get on
Like
YouTube, people. She looks like she's 27. It's fantastic.
And I don't
Lyme
color my hair.
Look at this. Lyme
Wow.
disease and 3 autoimmune diseases later, she looks fucking amazing.
Woohoo!
That's what's up.
That's what's
Oh.
up.
That's the most important part, isn't it?
That's what's up. I
Yes.
know. I'm pretty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, but that's I like Terry asked about this because I mean, I have a lot of clients that will come to me and if they have been told at one point in their journey by probably some type of Western medicine practitioner that there is a biological or a genetic link that is bringing this symptomology on. It's never there is a way for us to work through it. It's more so this is your crutch.
Right.
Yeah,
Like
Here's a
this is
you
your
can
daily
this is your
identify
problem.
destiny.
you
This
can
Yeah.
is
identify with this
Mhm.
forever, like
Yep.
the whole
Yep.
flare up thing. I have people say that all the time. I'm having an autoimmune flare up. Well, I don't even know what the hell that means. That doesn't make sense in my brain to me.
Now,
Um,
I do wanna back this up because there are certain genetic health things that epigenetics probably won't help, like if you were born with something genetic. We're not
Yes.
talking about that.
Absolutely,
Right,
absolutely,
so
and like
I
with
wanna
me, I'm
acknowledge that with
never
people
able
too.
to switch off my crappy genes for detox.
yes,
Mhm.
So that
that's
means
a
that I
great
have to
example.
live a very, more hypervigilant lifestyle, to
Mhm.
make sure that I don't develop a disease because of my crappy genes, right? So there's like a way to work. There's
Mhm.
a workaround,
Yeah.
right? But
Right.
no, it doesn't have to be destiny. And now I'm working with a pretty famous cancer doctor, breast cancer, and she talks about that often. That even if you've
Mhm.
got the BRCA gene, it does not mean that you are doomed to have to cut off your freaking breasts. Like, there's a
Yeah,
lot of
I
things.
say that a lot, actually. I
Oh my
think that's a
god.
really
Yeah.
great example, right?
I think she'd
Mhm.
be awesome on your show too.
Oh, get her on. Bring her
Yeah, yeah.
on.
Let's
Let's
get her
go.
on.
Get
Let's
her on.
get
We'll
her
talk
on.
about
We
this.
will
Yes.
hook that up for
Yes,
sure.
because but I think that I use that as an example, like the breast cancer gene doesn't just because you have it doesn't mean that you will 100% develop breast cancer. And I think that's an important acknowledgement. It's a big one. It doesn't resonate with everybody, but the idea that just because you have a genetic code doesn't mean that you are that genetic code and that is going to be your destiny forever, that
Mhm.
you're constantly going to be sick because of that.
No,
Right.
look at it as
So,
a warning sign, just
yeah.
something to be cautious of. Cautious, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
but if
need
you
to live
don't know
life
what
a
those
little
are
differently.
Yeah, but
What?
if you don't know what those codes
Exactly.
are,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
still we're talking about just going back into reducing stress, right? Like,
Absolutely.
so, and defining what that stress means, and that's what I find is that the definition of stress in our world is not really the definition of what stress actually is. And you
Yeah,
guys
let's talk
can
about
chime
that.
in, yeah,
Let's talk
because
about the multiple stressors that aren't just my shitty
yeah.
husband and my shitty job.
Right, right, or
That's us.
traffic
Yeah.
or,
Yep.
the state of things in
Yeah.
today's world and all of that. Like, there's a lot more stress, like nutritional stress is huge, you
Mhm.
know? Yeah,
Artificial lighting,
yeah,
chemicals in our
all
water
the
and
things.
our
Yes,
air. Yeah.
yes,
Mhm.
inflammatory stress, like if you
EMFs.
yes, all the things, or if you have something happening in your bowels, right? Like what's going on in there
Mhm.
that's causing your stress to happen, hormonal stress, like there's a lot of different stressful things to account for. And that is overwhelming. That's overwhelming because the majority of the stuff that we think about as stressful are things that we can't control. I can't control the state of the world. I can't control overhead lighting if I work in an office. Like they're not going to shut it off for me. I can't control traffic. I can't control emissions. What can I control?
Your
Um,
reaction.
mhm. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
tell us about
mhm.
that and tie that a little into because you've used the word inflammation a couple times.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we're talking about stressors and inflammation. Give
I
us some of
love
that.
somatic work because somatic experiencing work can be really, really helpful at helping a person get out of that fight or flight and into rest and digest. Something as simple as like box breathing. And I have my clients do that, 2, 3 times before they eat, right? Because if we're not if we're a fight and flight, we're not in rest and digest.
Right.
Digest.
And so
Mhm.
many people these days have so many digestive issues. Let's start off with just slowing it down, doing some box breathing a few times before you eat, and making sure that you're mindful with your food, that you're actually sitting down, quiet, not rushed, not grabbing to eat, not eating in front of your screen, actually being present with your meal. And it's amazing at how much different your body can absorb and assimilate and digest the food
Mhm.
properly. So like sometimes those little tweaks, right? Getting out in the first morning sun if you're having problems with sleeping and you need to reset your circadian rhythm, right? The best way to do that is actually first thing in the morning, not at night. It's getting that first morning light sun in your eyes, 5 to
Yep.
10 minutes. Do that for a week straight. They say people who are really, really like insomniacs, go camping for a week, right? Because that helps put you
Yeah,
back in
yeah.
the rhythm of nature.
That's true.
You're on the
Mhm.
ground, you're wake, because nature gives us clues, right? That so we have heat in the house, so that's always the same temperature, right?
Mhm.
Well, if we were out in the wild, as soon as the sun goes down, the temperature would go down. That's a cue to our body that we should be getting ready for sleep. Instead, we're
Yes.
in lights with these warm houses, and then we go to lay down and we wonder why we can't sleep. It's because our bodies haven't gotten the cues. And so there are a lot of little things that we can do. And that's the part that I really love to focus on. Because once you get those foundations down, it's like freaking magic. People are like, holy crap. I'm like, I know, right? Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be this complicated, biohacking. I love biohacking, but I think sometimes it can be a little misconstrued. And I think people put the cart before the horse sometimes. I really don't think biohacking tools should be used until the foundations are put down properly.
Can
And
you
then
talk
someone
about
like
what
me.
biohacking is before
Yeah.
you keep moving forward, just so people know?
Yeah, biohacking. So there's a lot of like red light, PMF therapy, cold plunges, data collecting, very fancy supplements,
Yep.
expensive MRIs. Like it's big in the anti-aging and the longevity
Mhm.
space is where a lot of it came from. Um, like I love my red light. I love a lot of my biohacking tools because there was so much collateral damage after 3 decades of sickness for me that I need these tools to help me be Batman, right?
Yeah.
But I still have to put down my foundations every day. I still can't eat like crap. I still can't stay out late at night. I don't drink, right? So there's
Yeah.
foundations first, and then I'll use these other tools to kind of just help up level my game a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I was thinking when you were talking about all those other neat things that you can do. They're not foundational though. Like they're still, if you get red light therapy, that's not going to outperform a bad diet.
Absolutely.
That's
Right.
not going to, it's kind of like supplements, right?
Yeah,
Like
you
you're
Yep,
can't out supplement a shit lifestyle. Like,
exactly.
you're just pissing your money away.
pretty much.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to
Yeah.
get the foundational things and then do all the cool stuff if you want to, or, implement something in your life that you really find valuable after your foundation has been
So
poured. Mhm.
and so 2 things, Heather. One, I hope you're a Michael Keaton Batman, because if you're gonna be the Val
Oh
Kilmer
my
Batman,
god.
no,
They're
fuck no.
horrible. Oh, it's so I was like, I will never wanna watch another Batman movie again. I'm like, "What happened? These used to be fun."
Okay, so that's the
Michael
first point.
Keaton.
Okay, second point then is, of the somatic, pieces you're talking about, where did you start? Because I'm curious to know about not only the somatic pieces, but even some of the biogenetic and the testing. Like, what did you have to do? What was the process? And I know there's a lot of steps, but where did it start for you once you saw this speaker? You had the aha moment. Went, I need to do this. This is what it is. What did you start doing?
So it's funny. I asked the universe at first, I'm like, "What am I missing?" And the book, The Body Keeps Score, dropped in my lap.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Very
Yeah.
triggering, very hard to read, and it was beautiful, and it kinda set me on this path, and they talked about a couple different ways, neurofeedback, so kinda started with that.
Okay.
I have a tendency to jump straight off a cliff, like, there's no hot and cold for me. I went from doing nothing to doing ayahuasca 2 weeks later.
See,
Oh
this is my.
god.
I have the same fucking problem.
Like, I was like, I didn't even know much about it. I put it out there, found somebody, and I was
That's
literally
great.
having a soul death 2 weeks later, right? Like,
Mhm.
I was processing mother shit, 40 years of mother shit in one night. I thought I was gonna die. It was so horrible.
You're like,
And
"Fuck EMDR, I'm going straight for
Yeah, I was gonna say
ayahuasca."
she's not even. Yep.
yeah, so
Yep.
since then, I've done ayahuasca once, I've done mushrooms twice, bufo twice, and then low dose ketamine.
Okay.
Those are
Huge,
hardcore things to do.
Those
huge fan,
are.
huge fan. Under the right guidance, under the right
Yep. Mhm.
circumstance, again, the
Mhm.
foundations need to be put down. They're not, it's
Mhm.
not a magic bullet, but I've had some hardcore freaking traumas in my life that I was having a really tough time gaining entryway in. And it just really helped open up parts of my brain, parts of my body, parts of my consciousness, to feel and see things from a whole other dimension. So that, and then I did somatic experiencing work. So Dr. Amy Apigian, she's got a program called The Biology of Trauma. Absolutely brilliant woman. I actually worked for her for a bit as her course manager. And she's the one who taught a lot of the somatic work. And then I started following Wim Hof and started doing a lot of his breath work.
I just even wanna back up a little bit further. Let's talk about what somatic means for people if they're listening and they're like, "I don't even know what that word means." So, you wanna explain when you say
Yeah,
that? Mhm.
it means in the body, I think. Somatic is so of the body, something like that. But it's body-based exercises that help because a lot of times, especially if you've got chronic pain and if you've got a lot of trauma, we're kind of constantly detached, right? We're disassociated from our bodies. It helps us put us back in our bodies, back in the present moment. And the beautiful part is that you don't have to and unfortunately, like talk therapy where you're kind of reliving it.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You don't have to relive it. You don't have to know what it did. And that was the part that always I was really disheartened by because I thought in order to heal, I'd have to remember what hurt me. And my
Mhm.
memory is gone. Like it was. I'm getting memories back now that I'm healing, but my whole childhood was wiped away. And so, it wasn't until I started doing this work that stuff started coming back. But you don't have to relive it, and that's the beautiful part of it. So like my favorite is called a VU with a push away. And the VU, stimulates the vagus nerve, which is attached to all parts of our body. And
Mhm.
we need to get that clicked into the parasympathetic, not the sympathetic. And then the push away, especially for those of us that are like energetically sensitive, and it seems like everything just touches us. It really just kind of helps push our energetic bubble out to give us some space, and then that way I have room, right, to think and
Mhm.
react before I'm just reacting. And so my ex-husband, he'll see me in the grocery store because the grocery store pisses me off sometimes. People in their just entitled ways. And he'll see me stand there and I'm like, "Voo," and, and he's like, Who pissed you off?
Yeah.
I'm like that woman
I'm
and her
just in
dog.
general pissed off in the grocery store. So yes.
Yeah. But so like even just that little bit that I did, like I just trained my nervous system. It's like, oh, I just came down like a notch, which is great.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I was
Yeah.
getting kind of excitable because this, type of stuff turns me on, excites me. But
Yeah.
I need to, it's like, come back down.
Sometimes I feel like therapy misses the boat in some respects because just the retelling of trauma, the retelling of your
Mhm.
story. I mean, it isn't, there's an important piece of it, but if that's all you're doing, like, I don't know that you're even tapping into the emotional part because I can retell my story and be not attached emotionally to it at all.
Right?
Like, yeah, here's what happened.
Mhm.
Boom, 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 and so that's sometimes I feel like it's just like, tapping into the logical pieces of the story rather than the how the emotions are in your body in the story of you, right? Like
Absolutely.
what happened. So yeah, I feel like that's where kind of therapy might miss the boat sometimes.
Absolutely. So
Mhm.
speaking of therapists, so you asked earlier, how did I get into comedy? So I
Through a
belong
therapist?
no, thank you. So I belong to a big networking group called Mastermind Mindshare, and it's like all the cool kids in alternative health. And I know this guy online, and I found out he just lives down the street from me, in another town. And I was like, we should meet for lunch. And he's a chiropractor who's on the spectrum who does stand up. He's got a one man show called Neurospicy.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. So we meet in person, and within 5 minutes, he goes, and he knows that I want to be a keynote speaker. He knows I want to be on more stages. And he's like,
Mhm.
have you ever thought about doing stand up? I was like, fuck no. Why would I do that to myself?
Mhm.
He's like, because it looks really good on a CV. And he's like, it's just a great set of skills to have. You should take this class with me. And I was like, "Pff." And then he goes, do you have any trauma in your life? I said, how long do you have for lunch? He starts off his bit with, comedians are people who can't afford therapy, that are like,
Mhm.
basically, hashing it out on stage.
Mhm.
So I took the class. So it graduated last year in May. I had my first paid gig in June, and then I had like 40 paid gigs last year. Like that's
Wow.
kind of an unheard of like entry for a new stand up.
Yeah.
But being a girl for the first time in my life actually gave me a leg up
Oh,
because only 10% of comics are
Yep.
female.
Yep.
And so they're
it's
like,
true.
"Oh, you're a funny girl. Come,
Yeah.
come, come. We need one of you." Kind of like the token, black man back in the day. Now it's the token girl,
Yeah.
funny girl. So, but yeah, so that's been fun. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that because I've worked really hard to stay out of bars and staying out late at
Yeah.
night and
Yeah.
staying away from people who aren't doing their work, and the majority of them aren't. And
Mhm.
so
Yep.
it can be a bit of a shit show. And so I'm kind of wrestling with, I love it. It's so much fun to make people laugh, but there's that other piece that comes with it that I'm just like, okay, maybe,
Yeah, it
maybe
kinda
I'll just
kinda goes against the lifestyle part that you're working on, to not have the
absolutely.
flare-ups happen,
Yeah, they're like,
when
"We're
you're
gonna have you on at 9:30," and I'm like, "I'm in bed by 9:30." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Ugh."
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
I mean,
that's
that's definitely
fun.
something to be mindful of,
I was
you
like, "If
know.
I become a headliner, we're starting at 6.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's
gonna be a
early.
matinee
It's early.
comedy show."
4:30.
Yeah, yeah.
Early bird hour, 4:30.
Tell us about in your bio that we read on you, there's a very intriguing word to me in your title, which is bioenergetic.
Mm.
Okay? And I can you tell people about what that is and how that is brought into your practice? Because you've touched on some of it as you're talking here, and I want you to what is that? What the hell does that even mean? Are you just full of energy? Like, clearly you are. I mean, we could see this.
Yeah, so yeah, it's most people think it's woo-woo. It's actually backed in physics. We are energetic beings. We are magnetic, uh, uh, electromagnetic beings. Like we can measure that with an EKG with the heart, with an EEG with the brain, and basically, if those energetic fields are off and they're not talking to each other in concert, right, that also creates disease. So many people are so focused on the physical. And so I'm also focusing on the mental, emotional, and the bioenergetics of it. Because if you're not looking at a person wholly like that, you're missing out on pieces of healing. And so it can be just as easy as, like I said, going. This is a funny. My stepson was like crawling out of his skin and just being a dick one day. And I was like, go outside and sit on the ground with your feet in the grass 20 minutes. And he fought me on it. He came back in a completely changed kid. I shit you not. Just getting our feet on the ground, grounding or earthing, however you want to call it, like dispersing the EMFs and the other stuff and getting like plugging back into the mother nature of our battery.
Yep.
There's another thing I use called a Nikki watch, and I can't believe I don't have it on right now, but it actually sends frequencies through red light. It's been amazing. A lot of bioenergetic tools that I've used in the past are phenomenal for diagnostic, but I haven't found them that they actually move the needle very well to where there's no diagnostic part with this. It's just like a menu. And so I can choose, well, for instance, I mean, every single time I went to a health conference, it never failed. By the third day, I was sick. I got this little watch. It's got an EMF travel protection on it. So now when I'm in the plane and going through the airport, I put it on that. And then when I get to the conference, I would put it on Immune Boost. I haven't been sick at a conference now for 2 years. You know,
I always get sick when I travel. Like almost
allergies,
every time.
What's EMF? What is that?
electromagnetic
There
frequencies,
you
you
go.
know,
Yeah.
everything is bound, you know, the whole setup I'm sitting in front of, not as bad because I hardwire in a lot of my stuff and I shut my Wi-Fi off at night. And so those are just a couple little tips that people can do. Right now, my phone is in airplane mode and it's away from me so that it's also
Sure.
not, you know, because I am, again, that canary in the coal mine. I've seen it in my genes where it's like, you are more sensitive to EMF. So I'm like, of course I am.
Well, this
You
goes
know,
back to control what you can control. Not
absolutely.
everybody can
Yep.
control those things, but
Yep.
when you realize some of the things that are in your control, go for
Absolutely.
it, you
Well, that's
know?
a part of those biohacking tools. So, and I don't have it
Yeah.
on me too, and I normally do, but I have an EMF blanket that I
Mm.
wear like a towel when I'm
Oh.
sitting at my desk and I sleep with it on. I love, and so this is another biohacking tool. It's a ring
She's
that
not really
tracks.
flipping you off.
I
Flip
know
me
I'm
off
not really
again. I love it.
am I creating
Do
a
it.
ring?
I know. And just so everybody knows, Heather has these on her website. I've seen them. The Nikki watch is on there. So if you
Yeah,
want
yeah.
a discount
Oh,
on it,
yeah.
there's your little plug because I've
Yep.
seen all this stuff on there. I'm like, oh,
'Cause I
Lucy
love
wears that
it.
watch
I
today.
don't plug anything that I haven't tried
Right,
myself
same.
because
Mhm.
I believe, I wholeheartedly,
Oh,
like,
man, I'm waiting for that.
I
Like,
can't
let's
be
go,
bought.
people. Bring me the products and I'll try them and I'll
Yep,
plug
yep.
any
Mhm.
shit that works well.
I
Right.
love it.
Mhm.
I'm actually meeting with a guy later today who's got a red light mask that he wants me to try it. He's gonna send me one, and I'm like, "Okay, I love that part of the job."
Sure, bring it
But anyway,
on.
so let's go
Mhm.
back. So the
So
tracking
jealous.
ring shows that my stress at night is like 48, which is considered high normal, and I'm like, I really like to get that down." And even though I shut my Wi-Fi off at night, I know one wall in my bedroom has dirty electricity, and my bed's not near that, but I just know there's some stuff going on in my house. So I started using that blanket, and the very first night, my freaking stress level dropped from a 48 to a 25
Hmm,
with just adding that EMF blanket to the mix. Like, so those are
interesting.
kind of the biohacking tools that I love, 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 the ones that I can track
Well,
and
you
see.
get data from it, like,
Yeah,
so,
Yeah.
exactly.
yeah, and I think
No,
whenever we collect some data and we're like, "Oh, this data looks
Yeah.
bad or good," or
Mhm.
I can move my data,
yep,
I think there's more buy-in with data,
So when you
yeah,
actually.
say stress, we are measuring these magnetic fields. Essentially what this is doing, right? To decrease some of that's happening. And is this leading to decreased inflammation? Like when you say stress and it decreasing, what is
Mhm.
actually what's it helping the body with then?
absolutely. Because every single piece of stress we can take off the body is like a boulder that we can take off the immune system, and then the body can go, oh, God, thank you. I know how to work now. Our body knows how to heal. We know
Mhm.
how to stay in
Mhm.
homeostasis if we get out of its way, right? So
Mhm.
each little piece, and a lot of times people don't even think like over exercising, which a lot of people are, you know, that's another stressor. Stress on the body is stress on the body. Our body doesn't recognize good stress and
Yeah.
bad stress.
It's
You
just
know,
stress.
so people are shocked when they start working with me and I tell them, okay, you need to stop doing the CrossFit. You need to stop doing the marathon running for the next
Terry, did
3
you put her up to this? Like,
I
did you put
know,
her up to
that's,
this
like, one of the
shit?
first
This
things
is
I
like,
told Jen. Yep, mhm.
I'm like, "Uh-oh, did I walk into something?"
oh yeah.
No.
Oh yeah. I was,
Just
yeah.
validated me,
Fuck
that's
adrenal
all.
fatigue. You don't know what you're talking about, Dr. Salty. I'm gonna keep doing my CrossFit.
Yeah, nope,
Yeah, no, don't do it.
nope,
Mhm.
don't do it. Don't do
Yeah.
Yeah,
it. Your poor adrenals are like,
Yeah. Oh yeah, we were.
exactly.
Numbers didn't lie.
Yeah.
The
Well,
numbers really
I like
are.
the idea of, like, taking off the stress that we can take off, like, so that we're getting out of our body's way because I your body has a lot to process all the time, and as the world evolves, even more to process, right? So I'm like, help it out just a little bit by taking off some stress that you can control, you know?
Absolutely.
So yeah,
So
it's
you're
an
telling me I
interesting
gotta take
situation.
my cell phone out of my bra and it can't stay in there all day?
Oh my God. No.
That's a good joke. You should use that in your stand-up
No.
comedy. You can give a shout out to Therapist Jenn. This was her joke.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, please. I can't fit shit in that bra. There's nothing.
Well,
I mean,
it
let's be
wouldn't be
honest.
truthful to me
Please.
because I wouldn't be caught dead with my cell phone on my bra. So that's
Yeah.
not even, I can't even, wouldn't be able to say that with a straight face.
Do you know what's really funny? This is a side note. Like years ago, before any of this came out, I was trying to figure out how to make a pocket for a bra for your cell phone. Now I probably
Oh,
would have been sued my ass off
oh
for
my
making
God,
the
right?
yeah, exactly. I called it the brocket. Mhm.
Ah, see, I wanted, it's funny. I wanted to make a pocket for a bra, but for your crystals.
Oh,
Ah,
well, maybe we should
Yes,
collab on this. I don't know.
yes, because I would put my, I've got here, watch. I got
yep.
something in my
Take 'em
bra
out.
right now.
What you got?
My
Yep.
little, it's my little Hannah Kroger cross.
Mhm.
But it
She's
never
pulling shit
failed.
out of her bra
I
if
am.
you guys are listening.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Like
it
my
never
mother would be very disappointed in the fact that my lipstick is not in my bra, but it's sitting next to me. She would be very pissed at me right now because it's always supposed to be in the bra. So I
I
got
take it
you.
off and I forget that I got my crystals in there, and then they hit the ground and they shatter and they
Yeah.
break into a couple different pieces. And so I was like, oh, I
Mm,
need to find a way, a crystal bra, something.
yeah.
But yeah, so not you were onto something, not for a phone, but let's do something for crystals.
Well, I did that because this was back in the day when my daughter was in high school, and all the girls would take their phones and shove them in their bra front,
Oof, right.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, I wonder what that's gonna do to them later on, and if they're
Right.
still doing it because it's habitual.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, that would be a small fix. Like,
It's
that would
so
be a
sad
small
because the warning is in the phones themselves. If you
now
look in the phone warning,
now,
yeah, but people don't
mhm.
even realize that though. They
Yeah.
think that you're
10, 12
crazy.
years ago,
Yeah.
no. You know what I mean? Like, we've evolved a little bit, but yeah. So, I mean, just there's some little things that we can do that can help with that foundational stuff and then kind of dabble in some of the little extras, right?
Mhm.
That we have. So that's pretty cool. That's empowering stuff, right? And I also think just as a final touch on the stress thing, how we talk to ourselves and our thought
That's huge.
processes is a huge stressor for people. And that is like the number one thing that we have control over. But
I
nobody
pointed
thinks they
out.
do. Nobody thinks it's like, nope, can't stop thinking that, can't stop, won't stop. And I think that is really in today's world, our number one stressor is our own thoughts.
So I have a good story with that. My
Yeah.
ex-husband, a couple years ago, I was in the middle of just completely berating myself, and he was like, "Stop talking to my wife like that."
Oh
And it,
yeah.
like, stopped me in my tracks. I was like, "Oh, shit," "You're right." And it's so
Hmm.
funny, not funny, but when I'm sitting on these, discovery calls with these cancer clients and I'm listening for little clues, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm hearing regret and how stupid and, blah, 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 blah," and I'm like, "That's, like, number 1 first thing we gotta start working on." Like, you're never
Hmm.
gonna get better until you start loving yourself, and you can't love yourself if you're talking to yourself like that. So, yeah,
Yes.
110%.
Yeah. And that is where therapy can come in pretty handy, actually.
Absolutely. Mhm.
you know.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely.
But
Yeah.
no, I agree with that because the way we talk to ourselves, we would never talk to our children that way or somebody that we loved, but we'll talk to ourselves that way. And that's just kind of a litmus test on how you're feeling about you.
Absolutely.
And I think that is something that definitely people have control over and they need to acknowledge that they do have control. I think when people don't acknowledge that, it's because they want to still stay stuck sitting in that bullshit swill, for their life. So it's just fine.
Victims don't get
Mm.
better, and that's the other part, it's really hard in the Lyme world. I ran across a lot of victims, and it was really different working in the Lyme world and then now I'm working in the cancer world. It's so bizarre. Most of these cancer folks are like, "Let's do it. Let's beat this. I got this." And they're not identifying with their disease as much as Lyme. And I think because the CDC just recognized it, chronic Lyme, as an actual
Yeah.
disease just 2 years ago,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so we had been gaslit for so long that we finally got an answer, and then we wear that like a badge of honor, like a cloak, like a comfortable blanket. But I used to tell my clients that I used to work with Lyme, I'm like, "You have got to stop identifying with this disease If you're going to get better, you have to stop being the victim. Oh, I was bit by a tick. No, nothing I did in my life did this. I was just bit by a tick. And I'm like,
But I like that.
that's like
Stop
just
identifying with this disease. Like, I think that's an
it's one piece of
important.
the puzzle. We talk
Yeah.
about this in terms of people identifying with like a mental health diagnosis as well. So
my
here
God.
kind of thing, it's a medical diagnosis, right? Similar
Mhm.
pieces, right? It just becomes who you are and it sickens you. Actually, it makes you worse. It doesn't allow for any almost like inner agency or inner responsibility that you can do something about it. It's nope, I was bit by the tick, and that's it, and that's forever the story.
I'm an anxious person,
Yeah.
Oh,
I have
yeah, my
anxiety.
anxiety.
Yep.
Oh my God.
My
A lot
anxiety.
of cute
Mhm.
in the Lyme world, they call themselves Limeys, and I'm like, no, I am not. No, 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 no.
Yeah, in my
Right,
world, they're
yeah.
SSRIians, and they will forever be on SSRIs, and that's it. And that's the thing, right? So
Mhm.
there's these cutesy little like names that are being put on that people identify with, and I think you say it well. How do you get better? How do you move on beyond that when your words put you in a grave?
So I
That's
had
it.
a wonderful example of a guy who, back to the bioenergetics, right? Muscle testing. So this guy was doing muscle testing or kinesiology, and basically, you put your arm out and something that is
Mhm.
strong in your body, they're not going to be able to move much. But if it's weak in your body, your arm goes down. And so I stood up in front of the class and he was like, say something nice about yourself. And I was like, or say your name. My name's Heather, I was strong. And then he's like, say something bad about yourself. And I did. And my arm went down. And it was just such a beautiful representation of meeting that what I said at that moment
Mhm.
made my body weak, right?
Physiologically react.
Stress lowers your immune system. Like we're starting to see that, like high stress lowers your immune system. So these more kind of lower vibration, anger, sadness, anxiety,
Mhm.
beating yourself shut up, that weakens the body. The body's listening, right? Like it's
Mhm.
just crazy.
Well, I think there still is a fair amount of, gaslighting with Lyme's disease patients. There still
Oh,
is. Uh-huh.
110%.
Yeah, and it annoys me. I mean, we're in Wisconsin, so
Oh,
Lyme's disease is prevalent here, and
it's
the amount.
Lyme, never limes.
I'm sorry, I
She
do
did
that
that
on
last
something else. I
I'm
always add
like,
that S on.
You gotta yell at her. She
I
did that
got
one other
it
time.
makes
You
me, it
gotta
This
makes
come
me
is
on.
for
twitch.
Lyme disease.
Sorry.
Maybe it's because I want it to be collective. I don't
I
know,
know,
but
right?
anyhow,
Stop
Lyme
being so
disease.
inclusive.
God, so yes, I want to
God.
include everyone. But anyway, so it still is very much a gaslit experience for a lot of people, even to the fact where I'll tell people like maybe, maybe it's this, maybe we should figure out if it's this, and they'll go and it'll be like, no, it's not that. And I'm like, there's
I've
different types of
doctors
testing
from the
too.
East Coast. Their
Hmm.
patients come to me and they're like, "Oh, my doctor said blah blah blah. It doesn't,
Or they'll
exist here."
refuse to test for it
Yeah.
altogether.
I'm like, "Are you
'Cause
freaking
there was
kidding
no
me?"
bullseye. Did you notice a
Right?
bullseye? Did you notice if you actually got bit by a tick, So, I'm, like, all that stuff just needs to go away, and I guess I don't understand why we just don't test anyway. Like, why
Right.
not? Why not just
Absolutely.
uncover whatever we can? But, yeah. It's so sad. It's so
It is.
sad, but
It
there's
is.
also this big light of hope, and I really appreciate the, like, stop identifying with the disease, stop saying you are the disease, stop saying this is your disease state, like, all of that stuff will not promote good healing, that it'll just promote more stress.
Mhm.
So this it's not even resistance, it's, when do you just give up? It's like a truce flag, right? Like, well, it's just this disease, the wave the flag of truth, or truce.
Oh my
Mhm.
gosh. Oh
Yeah,
my God, somebody's got
right.
my tail.
Yeah, exactly. So is there anything else you want the listeners to know?
No matter how common a symptom may be, it is never normal. It is always your body's check engine light coming on. And do not put a piece of tape over that engine light with over the counter crap, right? It starts off by whispering to you, and then pretty soon it starts screaming and yelling at you with things like cancer and Lyme disease and weight gain and diabetes and Alzheimer's. And, Alzheimer's, we're starting to like take as a normal part of aging, and it doesn't have to be a normal part of aging at
Yes.
all, folks. Like, so
Mhm.
again, no matter how common the symptom may be, it is never normal. Dig deeper and don't stay okay with the status quo. If the person you're working with only wants to put you on drugs or cut something out, next, it took me 27 years to get diagnosed and probably 30 different doctors, but I didn't give up. And that's, every time I learned something new, oh, well, that's not it. That didn't work. It's an elimination game, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're
That's
not crazy. Like that resonates for me, like driving in the car, tears down my face. Like I know I am not crazy. I know that because this experience is really happening to me. It's
Yeah.
real. And
Yes.
it's not a state of psychological bullshit that's happening in my mind. I'm not crazy. I know that this is happening to me.
Yep.
And I want to just reiterate one more point here, because you're like the third or fourth person that has mentioned this concept of, and I love it like this, feather brick semi truck, right?
Mhm.
So something will touch you like a feather first, like a
Mm.
little, then it'll hit you like a brick, and then it's going to knock you over like a semi
Ah,
truck.
I like
So,
Oh.
and I'm like, we got to start paying attention to the feathers. Like, pay attention to the small things first before you get to a
Mhm.
semi truck, because yours was a semi truck, and then digging out of that post accident semi truck hit you over and over and over again is a lot harder than, figuring it out when it's a feather. But I would also argue too, like, I understand that if something is a feather, nobody's going to take you seriously. They start taking things a little more seriously when it's a semi truck, unfortunately, because that's the way our healthcare
especially when
system
it's women,
operates.
because it's just
Yeah.
hormones or it's just mommy brain or
Or
it's
weight
just
loss.
yeah.
Yeah, all the things.
Mhm.
Yep, all
Feather
that stuff.
rhymes with Heather, so
Heather, brick semi truck. Anyway.
I actually grew up with twins in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Their names with Heather. Oh, it was Heather and Leather. Sorry, not Feather.
Do you remember
Oh,
the
Heather.
Heathers, the movie
Heather
The
and
Heather?
Leather.
Anyway. Heather and Leather?
Yeah.
It's a
Okay,
good
well,
name.
hello, Heather and Leather, if you're listening
It's
to
a
the show.
really good name.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, if you've hung out with us this far, thank you for being here. And I would like to remind all of our listeners to only give us 5-star reviews, because those are the only reviews that we accept.
Yeah,
Just
that's
kidding.
right.
5-star.
No bullshit.
Exactly. So make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, leave us those 5 stars. And you too can tell us your Gaslit Truth stories by emailing us at the Gaslit Truth Podcast at gmail.com. And that is a wrap.
Thanks, everybody.